Why do these Hitchcock films stand up well? They don't look old-fashioned. Well, I don't know the answer.
Je crois que c'est parce qu'ils sont tellement rigoureux. Il n'y a pas les caractéristiques non plus du moment dedans, parce qu'ils se situent entièrement par rapport à vous-même.
Yes.
My dad was a big movie buff, and it was one of the books that was in his library. From the time I was about 7 years old, he knew I wanted to make movies, so he recommended it to me. And I remember picking over it, and I must have read it, sections of it. Like there's the Oscar Homolka sequence from Sabotage, where it sort of lays out all of the cutting pattern.
It's not even a book anymore. It's like a stack of papers, because it was I had a paperback, and it's just it's it's got a rubber band around it.
In 1966, Francois Truffaut published one of the few indispensable books on movies, a series of conversations with Alfred Hitchcock about his career, title by title.
It was a window into the world of cinema that I hadn't had before, because it was a director simultaneously talking about his own work, but doing so in a way that was utterly unpretentious and had no pomposity.
There was starting to be these kind of erudite conversations about the art form. But, Truffaut was the first one where you really felt that, they were talking about the craft of it.
It was incredibly fascinating to me that these two people from very different worlds were both doing the same job, how they would talk about things.
C'est pas juste Truffaut a fait un livre sur Hitchcock. Le livre de Truffaut sur Hitchcock, il est une pièce essentielle de son œuvre.
I think it conclusively changed people's opinions about Hitchcock. And so Hitchcock began to be taken much more seriously.
At that time, the general consensus and climate was a bullying, as usual, by the establishment as to what serious cinema is. So it was really revolutionary. Based on what the Truffaut-Hitchcock book was, we became radicalized as movie makers. It was almost as if somebody had taken a weight off our shoulders and said, yes, we can embrace this, we could go.
In 1962, Hitchcock was 63 years old, a household name in television, and a virtual franchise unto himself. He had already been known for many years as the master of suspense, and he had scared the wits out of audiences all over the world with Psycho, and in the process upended our idea of what a movie was.
And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place. Let's go inside.
He had just completed his 40th feature, The Birds. Truffaut, half Hitchcock's age, had made only 3 features, but he was already an internationally renowned and acclaimed filmmaker.
Comme les voyages à New York, quand j'allais présenter mes films à New York, on me demandait, je sais pas, les journalistes me demandaient toujours quels étaient mes cinéastes préférés, et quand je citais Hitchcock, il y avait toujours un espèce d'étonnement.
Truffaut wrote Hitchcock a letter. He proposed a series of in-depth discussions of Hitchcock's entire body of work in movies.
le connaissait déjà parce qu'on l'avait souvent interviewé à Paris. Et il a accepté le principe d'une interview de 8 jours.
For Truffaut, the book on Hitchcock was every bit as important as one of his own films, and it required just as much time and preparation.
Je suis allé à Hollywood avec une interprète, collaboratrice, Mrs. Helen Scott, et nous sommes installés au Beverly Hills Hotel, et tous les jours on allait au studio Universal et on s'enfermait de 9h du matin à 6h du soir avec des micro-cravates autour du cou, et on parlait cinéma toute la journée, même pendant les heures de repas.
The meeting was documented by the great photographer, Philippe Halsman. Hitchcock and Truffaut. They were from different generations and different cultures, and they had different approaches to their work. But both men lived for and through the cinema.
My mind is strictly visual.
Hitchcock was born with the movies.
There's no such thing as a face. It's non-existent until the light hits it. There was no such thing as a line. It's just light and shade. The function of pure cinema, as we well know, is the placing of 2 or 3 pieces of film together to create a single idea.
Hitchcock was trained as an engineer, then moved into advertising.
Through that, I went into the designing of what were, in those days of silent films, the art title.
And then art direction, script writing, and production duties.
They said, how would you like to direct a picture? And I said, I've never thought about it. I was 23. My wife was to be my assistant. We're not married yet.
Nous n'étions pas encore mariés.
But we're not living in sin either.
Mais nous ne vivions pas dans le péché non plus.
Hitchcock had many close collaborators, but none of them was closer than Alma Reville. She was credited on some films, uncredited on many others, but Hitchcock consulted his wife on every movie he ever made.
Lodger was the first time I'd exercised any style.
He's making floors out of glass so he can show people walking in circles in the apartment above. He's playing with all those things that make cinema fun and magic, the tricks of it.
He was also conceptual with the way he approached many of these films. This movie, I have an idea for a way that I've never worked before. This is somebody whose mind is racing, filled with ideas, and that's why, you know, we refer to him all the time.
Do you realize the squad van will be here any moment?
No, really. Oh, my God, I'm terribly frightened.
Why, have you been a bad woman or something?
Well, not just bad, but...
But you slept with men?
Oh, no! Knife.
He directed the first British talkie.
Knife. Knife.
Alice, cut us a bit of bread, will you?
Knife. I'm in Chelsea. You mustn't use a knife!
And then, in 1934, he made the first 100% Hitchcock picture.
Sam Moritz was the beginning of The Man Who Knew Too Much. It was the place of our honeymoon.
And of course, Hollywood beckoned.
I wasn't attracted to Hollywood as a place.
Je n'étais pas attirée à Hollywood comme endroit.
They had no interest. What had interest for me was getting inside that studio.
C'était entrer dans le studio.
アメリカ映画があったからこそヒッチコックはあそこまでなれ、またヒッチコックがいてアメリカ映画っていうのがその僕が夢見ているアメリカ映画もぐーんと更新されたっていう。
Hitchcock did some of his best work in the 40s. But in the 50s, he soared.
I have a murder on my conscience, but it's not my murder.
And curiosity of James Stewart in this story of a romance shadowed by the terror of a horrifying secret.
Look, John. Hold them. Diamonds.
There was a spell that was cast with those films in the 50s into the 60s. And it's a special, blessed time for me because I saw them as they came out.
Truffaut began as a critic in the early 50s. He started at the great French film magazine, Cahiers du Cinéma. For the writers at Cahiers, soon to become the filmmakers of the Nouvelle Vague, Hitchcock's greatness as an artist was self-evident.
Aujourd'hui, nous avons fait admettre qu'un film d'Hitchcock peut être aussi important dans l'histoire de l'art que l'apparition d'un livre de Gide ou que l'apparition, je ne sais pas, d'Aragon, etc.
Before they made their own movies, the Cahiers critics erected a new pantheon of cinema. The directors who were the true artists, the authors who wrote with the camera, the auteurs.
La politique des auteurs dit c'est l'individualisation totale. La politique des auteurs dit non pas que tous les films d'Hitchcock sont bons et que tous ceux de Lannoy sont mauvais, mais elle dit le plus mauvais film d'Hitchcock est plus intéressant pour nous que le meilleur film de Lannoy. Voilà. Elle est une profession d'individualisme quand même.
La nouvelle vague, c'est le moment où le cinéma prend conscience de lui-même. Et où de jeunes cinéastes en devenir disent le cinéma est un art et nous sommes des artistes.
Bonjour, madame.
Being an individual artist meant self-exposure. Pouring all of yourself into your movie, all of your fears and obsessions and fetishes, just like Hitchcock did.
All together. Oh!
Tout ce qui le terrifie, il le pense jusqu'à un point où il puisse dire qu'il est attiré par ça. Et il ne s'arrête pas simplement à la terreur, il a une fascination pour ce qui le terrifie. Donc il y a plus, au bout d'un moment, il n'y a plus de différence entre ce qui le fait vibrer de peur ou ce qui le fait vibrer d'amour.
Hitchcock often told the story of being sent to the police station as a boy, where he was locked up for a few minutes as a symbolic punishment. He said that it led to a lifelong fear of the police. But Truffaut really was locked up. He was delivered to the police by his own father and then sent to a juvenile detention center.
Ça pouvait plus durer. Si j'avais fait ça à ton âge, mon père m'aurait assommé.
An episode he put into his autobiographical first feature.
L'enfance me semble un âge pénible, l'âge où il est interdit de se tromper, par exemple, où l'erreur s'appelle vraiment un délit.
Truffaut had a fierce attachment to freedom. It's there in all of his films. And it sent him in search of another father, a father who would liberate him. He found the great film critic André Bazin, who virtually adopted Truffaut and brought him to Cahiers du Cinéma. He found Jean Renoir and Roberto Rossellini. And he found Alfred Hitchcock. Hitchcock had freed Truffaut as an artist, and Truffaut wanted to reciprocate by freeing Hitchcock from his reputation as a light entertainer. And that's the basis on which they started their conversation.
Let me check with him and see if he's running yet. You started? You're running.
Comment dit-on rébille cette maladie?
All right, you're running now, huh? Okay, fine. We are now on the air.
Nous sommes maintenant sur l'air.
Votre genre de film,
Your type of picture,
les gens prennent du plaisir, mais feront semblant
get enjoyment but pretend
de ne pas être dupes,
not to be fooled.
Ils bouderont quand même leur plaisir.
They
après,
sulk, they begrudge they give their pleasure grudgingly.
Yes. Well,
when I say pleasure, I don't mean amusement. I mean
now
enjoyment.
they're obviously they're going to sit there and say, "Show me."
Oui, oui, évidemment, ils vont là-bas puis ils disent montre-moi.
And they expect to anticipate. I know what's coming next. I have to say, do you?
Ce genre de cinéma qui est satisfaisant pour le public irrite quelquefois les critiques parce qu'effectivement, c'est désinvolte à l'égard de la vraisemblance.
Yes, but you see, to me,
oui, mais vous voyez que pour moi,
plausibility for the sake
la
of
vraisemblance
plausibility
pour la vraisemblance
help, you know.
N'aide en rien.
Oui. Vous avez l'habitude, non pas de rechercher la vraisemblance, mais enfin de ne pas l'éviter si elle est utile.
But not to avoid it if it's useful.
I have a favorite little saying to myself, logic is dull.
Oui, oui, non, c'est vrai, oui. Est-ce qu'on peut maintenant essayer de définir le suspense,
Is it
par
possible now for us to define suspense? That is to say, are there many forms of suspense?
Les gens croient un peu naïvement,
somewhat naively,
que le suspense, c'est quand on a peur.
Is when one is afraid.
Ce qui est faux.
Which is wrong.
No, no. In the film Easy Virtue,
dans le film Easy Virtue,
the young man was proposing to this woman.
Le jeune proposait à cette femme
She
le
wouldn't
mariage.
give an answer. She
Elle
said,
n'est pas sa réponse. Elle dit.
I'll call you up when I get back around 12 o'clock.
Quand je retournerai vers 12h, midi. Alors j'ai montré une petite montre qui montre minuit.
Operator on this telephone switchboard.
C'est l'opérateur sur ce standard de téléphone.
That girl is in suspense.
Cette fille a du suspense.
And she was relieved at the
Elle a
end
été soulagée à la fin
that the suspense was over.
Que le suspense était terminé.
The woman said yes.
La femme a dit oui.
Suspense doesn't always have
La
fear.
suspense ne suggère pas nécessairement la crainte, la peur.
Ouais, c'est ça, pas nécessairement.
talks about things contextualizing what the work of a director truly is at its most fundamental and most simple.
Emotionally, the size of the image is very important.
Est très importante.
You were dealing with space.
Vous savez, il s'agissait de l'espace.
You may need space and use it dramatically.
Que vous avez besoin de cet espace pour s'en servir dramatiquement.
When the girl
Délibérément,
shrunk back on the sofa,
s'est reculé sur le sofa.
I kept the camera back and used the
J'ai gardé la caméra en
space
arrière et me
to
suis servi de l'espace
indicate
pour
the
indiquer
nothingness
le rien, le néant,
from which she was shrinking.
duquel elle se reculait.
If you have some kind of understanding of color and design and light, directing is really three things. You're editing behavior over time, and then controlling moments that should be really fast and making them slow, and moments that should be really slow and making them fast.
And time to take you through a sequence or to direct your perception in a way where he could elongate time or telescope it.
Well, there are moments when you have to stop time.
Dans mon premier film, dans les Four Hundred Blues, j'ai eu l'expérience de ça. En faisant l'école buissonnière, l'enfant dans la rue rencontrait sa mère avec un homme qui n'était pas son père.
Describe to me in detail what the action was.
On était avec les enfants qui se promenaient dans la rue au lieu d'être à l'école.
Cutting to the mother before the boy saw her.
Elle ne voyait pas, elle
But she
ne
didn't
regardait
see
pas vers
it. She
l'enfant.
was not looking at the child yet.
On reprenait les enfants, retournait le visage qui partait sur la mère qui le voyait s'éloigner.
You showed the mother who saw them walking away.
Oh mon Dieu, Antoine, il m'a sûrement vu.
I'm asking from a story point of view, what was the intention?
Quelle était l'intention?
L'intention, c'était de montrer que les deux s'étaient vus l'un l'autre.
Comment le type? Je l'ai jamais vu.
Et elle dit, je suis sûr qu'il m'a vu.
I would have hoped that there was nothing spoken.
Truffaut n'est pas un styliste. Enfin, il aime pas ça. Enfin, je veux dire, il filme admirablement bien, mais la question n'est jamais là.
Tu es lâche. Tu as peur.
S'il y a une chose qu'il retient de Hitchcock, c'est celle de la concision, c'est de la vitesse. Mais la différence, c'est que Hitchcock a un sens absolument mathématique de la construction de ses séquences. Hitchcock est un théoricien de l'espace.
The thing I think about the most with Hitchcock is the visuals are so graphic and precise. There's a lot to learn from that.
He said, when I'm on the set, I'm not on the set. I'm watching it on the screen. That's the key to Hitchcock, in a way. I mean, he sees the picture in his head.
I imagine he just sat alone and these images came to him and he just never questioned it. You don't feel like he's ever not confident in every shot. That's one guy you don't really question. It always works within his world kind of perfectly.
要注意だと思ってます。得意な映画の歴史の中でも映画の中心にいるようなふりをして、実際多くの作品はいかにも中心にあるんですが、作家性という点で見るともう極端に端っこにいる人だろうと思います。四国トリュフォーの中で語っていることは いちいちそうだ自分も映画を撮る人間としてそういう心構えで映画を撮るべきだとバイブルのように思いつつ絶対に七国の映画の真似だけはしてはならないと固く禁じています。
No, I don't like to cook.
同じ本命で有名なキスシーンはまさに悪魔的なカットだと思います。何度見てもですねあのキスシーンって、ずっと2人の顔を撮っているんですけど顔を撮っている分顔以外のところがどうなっているかが全くわからないんです。
Even if they go all the way across the room, he's going to move with them in the kiss, and the actors are going to say, this is the most bizarre thing. We're walking while we're kissing. But he knows how it fits in the frame, and he knows that the tension won't be broken, and the spell won't be broken.
This is a very strange love affair.
Well,
Maybe the fact that you don't love me.
I was giving the public the great privilege
le grand privilège
of embracing Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman together.
Ingrid Bergman ensemble.
It was a kind of temporary ménage à trois.
Un ménage à trois temporaire.
And the actors hated doing it. They felt dreadfully uncomfortable.
Ils se sentaient terriblement mal à l'aise.
In the manner in which they had to cling
De la
to
façon
each
dont ils
other.
devaient s'accrocher l'un à l'autre.
And I said, well, I don't care how you feel. I only know what it's going to look like
Et
on the
j'ai dit,
screen.
je m'en fous de comment vous vous sentez. Moi, tout ce qui m'intéresse, c'est l'apparence que ça aura sur l'écran.
He obviously had contentious relationships in some cases with actors. You know, he definitely solicited movie stars. You know, there's no doubt in reading the book that he's very cognizant of the value of faces that people want to see and sometimes the complications that come with that baggage.
Montgomery Clift is transcendent in I Confess. He's great. But I don't think Hitchcock cared if they had a good time or not, or how they felt about him. Obviously, that wasn't a huge concern of his.
Sometimes you need a look to convey something or to look at something and react.
Quelque chose et pour avoir une réaction.
I had a conflict with Clift. I said, Monty, I want you to look up at the hotel.
Je veux que tu regardes également l'hôtel.
So he said to me,
Alors il m'a dit,
I don't know whether I would look up to the
mais je ne sais pas
hotel.
si je regarderai moi vers l'hôtel.
I said, why not? He said, I may be occupied by the people
Parce que je
below.
serai préoccupé des gens qui sont là en bas.
I said, I want you to look up to the hotel
Je
windows.
veux que tu regardes en haut vers les fenêtres de l'hôtel.
And please do so. Now, I was telling the audience,
Et moi, je
across
disais à
the
l'audience,
street is the
En
hotel.
face, il y a l'hôtel.
So an actor is going to try and interfere with me, organizing my geography. That's why all actors are cattle.
C'est pourquoi je dis que tous les acteurs sont du bétail.
Yeah, with Hitchcock, you get a sense of a kind of a self-contained psychology, that we were going to explore his obsessions and what he was interested in. I think his collaboration there didn't go much farther than that.
Acting, it's a great part of movie making, but it's not the only part of movie making. And I think Hitchcock was one of the first people to say, there is a structure to this language. He probably did more for the psychological underpinnings of characterization in motion pictures than anyone. And on top of it, wouldn't allow any of his actors to explore that kind of behavior on set. It was the rigor of dramatizing it in narrative terms and then not allowing for it to like spill over the edge of the buckets.
Coming out of World War II, which is the worst recorded war in history, destruction of civilization, no peace or comfort from religion. the paranoia, the anxiety. Who are we? What are we? In post-World War II, there was a rupture, a change, particularly in the nature of what a performance or a persona on screen would be. And that is that the actor is the main instrument, really. And this is all expressed, I think, in Brando, James Dean, and Clift. Alfred Hitchcock was able to get the soul of the actors on screen, whether it's Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint, Grace Kelly, Jimmy Stewart. But it comes of another tradition.
I'd love to see De Niro, Pacino, Dustin Hoffman. To see that school of actor, you know, try to flourish under the iron umbrella of this is what this next 3.5 seconds is about.
I would like to ask you, do you feel it's too much trouble having to direct actors in their acting?
Ce que j'aime, c'est une formule
What I
intermédiaire,
like is an intermediary formula.
comme de parler avec un
That is
acteur
to say, to speak with an actor
le soir après dîner
the evening after dinner,
et faire le dialogue
and then create the
dans la
dialogue
nuit avec les
in
mots
the
de son
night
vocabulaire qu'il a
with the
employés.
words which he himself has been using and a part of his own vocabulary.
Yes. Well, does that mean you have to write overnight?
Souvent le soir pour le lendemain, oui. Dans Jules et Jim, par exemple, à un moment, les 3 hommes sont assis. Ce qui a été complètement
And
improvisé.
this was completely improvised.
Sacrifier vos moustaches? Oh oui, j'ai fait comme tout le monde. Mais je ne me plais pas ainsi, j'ai l'impression d'être tout nu.
Mais enfin, ce sont des choses, évidemment, qui rendent le film plus vivant, mais qui sont très dangereuses
Which are very dangerous
pour la courbe.
for the curve, for the
The shape,
for
the shape of the picture.
Oui. Ah oui, oui, oui.
I often am troubled as to whether I cling to what I call the rising curve shape of a story, and whether I shouldn't experiment
Et si je ne
more
devrais pas expérimenter
with a
davantage
looser form of
avec une forme
narrative.
plus détendue dans la narrative.
Sometimes it's very hard
Quelquefois c'est très
because
difficile parce que
if you work for character
si vous
direct,
travaillez
they'll
sur le
take
caractère
you
directement,
along where they want to go. And I'm like the old lady with the Boy
et je
Scouts.
suis
I
comme
don't
la
want to
vieille
go
femme
that way.
avec les jeunes éclaireurs, moi je ne veux pas y aller.
And this has always been a conflict
Et
with
ça a
me.
toujours été un conflit avec moi.
It seems to me he finds material that he can kind of, you know, it's applied science. He can sort of apply the Hitchcock thing to this story. But now I have my series of linear plot devices leading to a fall from a high place.
Quite obviously, I'm,
Parce que très évidemment,
I suppose, like any artist who paints or writes,
tout artiste
I'm
qui
limited
peint ou
to
qui
a
écrit,
certain
je suis
field.
limité à un certain domaine.
Je n'aime pas le contrôle au cinéma. J'aime pas l'idée d'un tournage où il n'y a pas une forme de transformation du scénario, de transformation de la matière humaine. Et je trouve qu'il y a quelque chose de transcendant dans le rapport au contrôle de Hitchcock. C'est-à-dire que Hitchcock a inventé une clarté dans l'écriture qui n'est non pas matérialiste, mais qui capture de l'invisible, qui saisit une forme de spiritualité.
I went high because I didn't want to spend a lot of footage on people getting out hoses and starting to put out a fire.
Montrant des gens qui sortaient leur truc et éteignaient le feu.
If you play it a long way away, you aren't committed to any detail.
It wasn't just simply to show the whole town and how the birds are coming in. It took on another kind of apocalyptic religious feel. It was omniscient. It's the cleansing of the earth.
Whose point of view is it when you cut to above everything? God's point of view? Are we all being judged from above? You know, that kind of suggests that.
Where are those papers now, exactly?
For me, that angle is always something that has a kind of religious element to it.
Est-ce que vous acceptez d'être considéré comme un artiste catholique?
Go off the record.
You know, you have Martin Balsam going up the stairs, right? And that's so deliberately slow. You just know he's going to get it, but you don't expect that high angle. There's something omniscient about it that's kind of frightening.
Dans vos films, je sens très fort l'odeur du péché originel aussi.
Yes.
J'avoue que je suis embarrassé pour donner des exemples, mais je sens vraiment dans votre travail le sens d'une culpabilité des hommes. Tout le monde a toujours quelque chose à se reprocher.
Always has something to feel guilty about.
They're asking, have you ever heard topaz?
Colonel Kusanov, does the word topaz mean anything to you?
It cuts to the defector, and the camera's sort of up above him a little bit, and you see his eye shift. The eye is not covered. That means the angle had to just be right. Now you know he's lying. What's that poem? You may leave the religion, but the hound of heaven is always there. That infuses everything, the whole thought process and the storytelling process.
And continually turn our hearts from wickedness and from worldly things unto thee.
C'est curieux parce que souvent, tous les films d'Hitchcock, à peu près, sont basés sur un transfert de culpabilité, y compris The Wrong Man. On me prête un crime que je n'ai pas commis, mais dans le fond, est-ce que je n'ai jamais commis un crime? Et donc, c'est le transfert de culpabilité qui est la base de tous les films. Et pour moi, The Wrong Man est un des plus beaux films parce qu'il y a ce transfert de culpabilité entre le vrai coupable et le faux coupable.
Over the years, I keep revisiting it, watching it over and over again. This is the average man, decent man, I should say. Family, kids, suddenly picked up.
Your name, Chris?
You calling me?
And everything,
Yes, it is.
everything points to him doing it. And you know he didn't.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're sure?
Absolutely.
Je pense qu'on ne peut pas faire un film comme ça. C'est impossible de faire un film comme ça si on ne vibre pas d'empathie pour chaque geste, chaque moment, chaque objet.
Those extraordinary inserts where Henry Fonda is just sitting on the bunk. He looks at the cell around him, and it cuts to different sections of the cell. What makes you feel oppressed? The lock on the door, but from what angle? Is it really his point of view? All these things are remarkable, I think.
C'était impossible pour un cinéaste non catholique de faire cette scène de la prière de Wrong Man.
Yes, that's right.
Impossible.
Le coup de génie, le fondu avec les deux visages et le mal, on voit le mal, mais le mal c'est pas le méchant, c'est pas le type qui fait le cambrioleur, c'est pas ça. Le mal c'est le fait que cet homme se soit retrouvé condamné alors qu'il était innocent, et le méchant n'est qu'un des agents du mal. Toujours avec ce même mouvement, Hitchcock se retire du film, ce qui permet au spectateur d'occuper une place prééminente dans le film. Et en même temps, à la fin du film, on a l'impression qu'on a vu un autoportrait de son auteur. C'est très, très troublant.
Vous rêvez très souvent?
Not a lot, no.
Et vous sentez l'importance du rêve, quoi, que c'est.
One senses in your work the importance of dreams.
Daydreams, probably.
Sans le vouloir, vous retombez automatiquement sur le domaine du rêve, qui est souvent fait sur le péril et la solitude.
Well, that's probably me within myself.
Parce que votre logique, qui ne satisfait pas les critiques, comme on l'a dit souvent, c'est un peu la logique des rêves.
Look.
I think it occurs because I'm never satisfied with the ordinary. I can't do well at the ordinary.
Hitchcock keeps referring to these sort of fetish objects. Keys and handcuffs and ropes and stuff, which are kind of dream objects, which have a kind of Freudian weight to them.
Comme dans le rêve, il y a une sorte d'hyper-perception des objets. Il y a des choses qui, tout d'un coup, des détails qui prennent une prééminence, enfin qui prennent une importance essentielle, et des choses essentielles qui sont au second plan. Et ça, c'est vraiment le rêve.
Un sac à main signifie, une clé signifie, une bouteille signifie. Et ce qu'elle signifie, on ne sait pas ce que ça signifie. Comme dans un rêve, on se dit, mais quelle est la clé des songes? J'ai rêvé d'un oiseau, qu'est-ce que ça voulait dire dans Birds? Pourquoi? Et on ne sait pas. Dans le premier, L'homme qui en savait trop, il y a un plan magnifique où la mère lève les yeux au ciel, vacille un peu. Il y a une contradiction entre les panneaux filés qui vont très vite et le mouvement de l'actrice qui est très ralenti. La mère tombe et s'évanouit. À ce moment-là apparaît l'image du petit pins que la fille avait de sa médaille de ski en insert. Et du coup, il y a ce visage enfantin qui fait penser, avec cette masse de fourrure derrière, comme la tête d'un énorme monstre. Donc on pense à La Belle et la Bête. C'est aussi une image fascinante. C'est des images qui viennent aussi du cinéma muet.
Silent pictures are the pure motion picture form.
C'est la forme la plus pure de...
C'est ça.
There was no need
dire qu'il n'y avait aucun besoin
d'abandonner
la technique
of the pure motion picture,
du cinéma pur.
The way it was abandoned
La
when
façon,
sound came in.
De la manière dont ça a été abandonné quand on a amené le son.
The craft was, of course, developed in silent cinema first. So the whole idea was, how do I tell this story without any dialogue? This is a brilliant way to train someone to think visually. And part of the reason the films have that incredible dreamlike feeling.
Comme disait Truffaut, les gens qui ont connu le secret perdu, les gens qui ont commencé à l'époque du cinéma muet, qui savent quelque chose du cinéma que tous les cinéastes qui auront commencé pendant le parlant ignoreront toujours.
So many Hitchcock films would work silently. You could watch a Hitchcock film without any dialogue or music, and I think you'd still get a really high percentage of it.
Il y a vraiment un savoir plastique là d'une force, c'est admirable. Et les transparences chez Hitchcock ont une fonction qui est extrêmement complexe.
Meant to achieve a realism, but it's more of a, how should I put, the spirit of realism. It isn't objective.
Cette idée de plan de réalité, cette idée d'un personnage qui, comme dans un rêve, c'est-à-dire le personnage est en vrai et derrière le monde est comme une toile de rêve.
Vertigo, c'est un de vos films les plus poétiques. Il est plus poétique que dramatique même. Mais le film a, dans le côté rêve, il a une espèce de lenteur, quelque chose de contemplatif que n'ont pas vos autres films. Ils sont souvent construits sur la fulgurance, la rapidité.
Yeah, but you're dealing with the point of view of an emotional man.
Qu'est-ce qui intéressait le plus M. Hitchcock dans le sujet?
I was intrigued with the efforts to create a woman.
Ce qui m'intriguait, c'était les efforts
In the image of a dead woman.
de créer une femme à partir de l'image d'une femme morte.
If you think that you can hide what your interests are, what your prurient interests are, what your noble interests are, what your fascinations are, if you think you can hide that in your work as a film director, you're nuts, you know? And I think that he was one of the first guys who said, I'm gonna go with it. I gotta be me. In the case of his best work, there's a more direct umbilicus to his subconscious. Certainly, I think that's true of Vertigo.
The sex psychological side is that you have a man creating a sex image that he can't go to bed with her until he's got her back to the thing he wants to go to bed with.
It should be back from your face and pinned at the neck. I told her that. I told you that.
We tried it.
Or, metaphorically, indulged in a form of necrophilia. That's what it really was. The thing, you see, that I liked and felt most when she came back from having her hair made blonde and it wasn't up. This means she has stripped but won't take her knickers off. You see? She says, all right, and she goes into the bath, and he is waiting. He's waiting for the woman to undress and come out
Nu.
ready for him.
Ah ouais, c'est beau ça. Ouais.
And while he was looking at that door, he was getting an erection. We will now tell a story. Shut the machine off.
What I love about Vertigo is just, it's so perverted. It's just so perverted.
Here, Judy, drink this straight down, just like medicine.
Why are you doing this? What good will it do?
I've always felt that the most interesting view of Vertigo would be her story.
The color of your hair. Judy, please, it can't matter to you.
And it's almost more honest than the guy's point of view.
If I let you change me, will it do it?
I guess taking Scotty's point of view was
Will you love me?
Hitchcock's point of view.
Yes.
Enfin, Vertigo est un film pour lequel vous avez beaucoup de tendresse, je crois, quand même.
Yes, I enjoyed it, yes.
Oui,
You know, I had Vera Miles tested and costumed. We were ready to go with her. She went pregnant. And that was going to be the part that I was going to bring her out. She was under contract to me. But I lost interest. I couldn't get the rhythm going again with her. Silly girl.
I don't think he would have been able to take Vera Miles into that Judy place, into that real kind of a slutty place. And so I think that he surmounted his restriction in that way. I saw the film fairly early in my life as a film person, and I saw it through Marty.
It became a lost film, so to speak. And I'm talking about all the filmmakers in the 70s were trying to find copies of it. Some people had 16s, so it became a picture we were looking for.
It was a kind of forbidden document, kind of sacred document that only certain insiders had privilege to. It was just kind of hard to imagine in today's world of indiscriminate access to virtually everything. So the number of people who had seen Vertigo weren't that many. Hitchcock wasn't talking about it that much because it wasn't very successful.
qu'est-ce qui vous gêne dans le film?
The hole in the story. The husband who pushed his wife off the tower, how did he know that Stuart wasn't going to run up those stairs?
In the case of Vertigo, the machinations of the plot, well, they do work, they function, and they function rather brilliantly, but the subtext seems to be bubbling up almost to the point where it's text.
I can't really say that I believe the plot. And I don't take any of the story seriously. I mean, as a realistic story. So the plot is just a line that you can hang things on. And the things that he hangs on, they're all aspects of, you know, cinema poetry. And that's a film that I can't really tell where things start and end. I don't care. Or when he's following her in the streets in the car. What is he looking for? What's he looking for?
The frustration is on his face, and you're like, where is this going? And you realize, no, that's totally connected to who he is in the film.
The city itself is a character. The architecture itself. The mystery of old San Francisco. That painting.
We cannot see Kim Novak's face looking at that painting. How important her gaze must be. But no, it's not, because it's all a ruse. The connection that Kim Novak has with that painting is bullshit, right? The only gaze that matters is Jimmy Stewart's gaze, watching the curl in the hair and how it's similar to the painting on the wall. I'm sure he didn't shoot coverage from the front. Someone like me, I would do that. We're not that good. We don't understand the power of the image, the way that he did.
I want anything. I want to get out of here.
Judy, do this for me. This whole business of remaking her, yes, we get it. Everyone's talking about the fetishism of it.
No, we'll take it.
Fine, it's good. But it's this extraordinary sense of loss that he's trying to fill that void. Maybe it reaches out to everyone because of that. You know, we could bring our own sense of melancholy or loss to it.
Judy, I tell you this, these past few days have been the first happy days I've known in a year.
I know.
It's about desire, but we all understand that. We all understand the idea of desire. That's part of what makes us us. I think Kim Novak coming out of the bathroom is the single greatest moment in the history of movies. At that moment, everything that Hitchcock was about and everything that cinema is about comes together in the most beautiful way, which is, yes, it's a fantasy, but the fantasy is real to him.
That kiss is so extraordinary. That's the one moment where he gets some kind of fulfillment. And then after that, it's time to go.
There was where you made your mistake, Judy. You shouldn't keep souvenirs of a killing. You shouldn't have been that sentimental.
It's a world that he creates that reflects, I think, what it is to be alive and what it is to live in fear. A good fear, a natural fear, but fear just the same, of just the human condition, of who we are. But it's more than a story. It's more than a story. It really is like living a lifetime with him.
Et le film n'a pas été ni un succès ni un échec.
It'll break even.
C'est ça. Oui, ce qui est quand même un échec, puisque c'est-à-dire il a coûté
I
peut-être
suppose
assez
so,
cher.
yes.
It's tricky, you know, that people will learn the wrong lessons from failures, just as they sometimes learn the wrong lessons from success. And the thing that I find so depressing about Hollywood is how often people really feel the first 3 months of anyone's response to your film, that's it. Carve that into marble, that was the response. It's not true. It wasn't true for Vertigo.
There is sometimes a tendency among filmmakers to forget the audience.
D'avoir l'audience.
I personally am interested in the audience. I mean that one's film should be designed for 2,000 seats and not 1 seat.
Oui.
This, to me, is the power of the cinema. It is the greatest known mass medium there is in the world.
Le génie d'Hitchcock, il est fondé sur l'érotisme, il est fondé sur des émotions relativement troubles. Et je trouve que ce qui est assez étonnant, ce qui est assez admirable, c'est la façon dont il arrive à transmettre, communiquer ces choses délicates, obscures, d'une façon qui est acceptable par tous les publics.
Il y a 2 obsessions comme ça qui sont de faire le film avec le public ou pour le public. Mais comme moi, je vis vraiment comme une passion au sens religieux ou une déclaration d'amour très très vive et que je ne cesse de ne pas comprendre.
Directors of Hitchcock's generation, the ones who came up under the studio system, were all mindful of their audience. But in Hitchcock's case, it ran deeper than that. His films are made in a dialogue with the public that's close, almost intimate.
It doesn't matter where the film goes.
Cela m'est égal où va le film.
If you've designed it
Si vous
correctly,
l'avez plané correctement,
the Japanese audience
l'audience du
should
Japon
scream at the same time as the Indian
devrait
audience.
hurler en même temps que l'audience des hindous.
Could you still play an audience the way Hitchcock can? They do, but it's a different audience, and it's a different playing. See, the audience has been raised on films which are very loud, which have a climax every 2 seconds.
Now we're so pummeled by stories and visual hyperbole that it's a very different world. In trying to move the needle in terms of getting humans to accept your theses, Hitchcock's coming out of a world where everything was a proscenium and everything was structured, and he was able to take that structure and bend it and twist it and exaggerate it to greater or lesser effect. By the time you get to Psycho, people are watching television. And Ed Gein is informing what's happening in the movies. We're starting to borrow from the real world.
Le roman était peut-être inspiré par un fait divers.
I believe so, yes, in Wisconsin.
Oui,
somewhere.
dans le Wisconsin quelque part.
Psycho, in order to get the audience effect,
Je dirais que dans
For the
Psycho, pour avoir les effets sur l'audience,
I would say that this is pretty well as cinematic as a lot of pictures.
Oui, oui, en plus, oui, oui, oui.
It was a very interesting construction. I've tried for a long time to
Si.
play the audience.
Ouais.
Let's say we were playing them like an organ.
Why don't you call your boss and tell him you're taking the rest of the afternoon off?
The scene with John Gavin and Janet Leigh in the beginning. The element there is the bra. Okay. But it's shot very simply, but ominously. There's something ominous about it. The scenes in the office are kind of all right, you know. But that Texan...
I'm buying this house for my baby's wedding present. $40,000 cash.
For his style, the blandness of the scenes and the blandness of the framing is just really a kind of a bridge to get you to the next major moment. I think his instinct is right in telling stories like that.
I never carry more than I can afford to lose.
How benign can we make these images that just connect the dots?
I don't even want it in the office over the weekend. Put it in the safe deposit box in the bank.
It cost only $800,000.
Ça n'a coûté que $800 000.
And I used a complete
Et je me suis
television
servi
unit to do it.
d'une équipe de télévision complète pour le faire.
He was flirting with you. I guess he must have noticed my wedding ring.
It was necessary
Il était nécessaire
to make the
faire
robbery and what
vol
happened to the girl purposely on the long side to get an audience absorbed with her plight.
Come in.
Where I slowed up was when I came to the scenes that indicated time and trouble.
Hitchcock really does love to surprise people and to take you in unusual directions. He sort of thrived on that, and he was very proud of that. That's what his cinema is kind of based on. The beginning of Psycho, it's one of the great misdirections.
He is playing with your expectations of where you're supposed to be in a movie, where you're supposed to be in a Hitchcock movie, where you're supposed to be in a Universal movie. You can argue the value of Janet Leigh's performance. You can say, well, that's a little flat, it's a little this, that's a little kabuki. Maybe all of those things are leading you to believe, as an audience member, there's a bigger cumulative effect. She's servicing an expectation.
The best scenes for me are ones he must have spent time on, the driving shots. You had to spend time on those, particularly the points of view somehow. And the framing of Janet Leigh in the center of the frame with top of the steering wheel and the bottom of the frame. Because you can make a choice. You can go above the steering wheel, you know, or you can go further out. But then maybe you won't see her eyes as well. So it's like the perfect size.
In quite a hurry.
Yes, I didn't intend to sleep so long. I almost had an accident last night.
The scene with the policeman.
Here all night?
Of course, the framing of him staring into the car. Yes, we know with the glasses, he's scary. But there's something about the restraint of those frames. See, and the more you restrain, the better it is when the explosion happens. And on the way to the explosion, there are these meditative states, driving.
Caroline, get Mr. Cassidy for me. After all, Cassidy, I told you, all that cash.
And there's a sense of movement ahead, movement ahead. She steals money, then she decides to drive away, then she becomes guilty about it.
Gee, I'm sorry I didn't hear you in all this rain.
Then she meets this guy in a motel, and he's telling her all his problems.
A few years ago, Mother met this man, and he talked her into building this motel.
You're watching, you want to know what happens. She's going to bring that money back? Now, what is Anthony Perkins really going to do? You know, he has his mother there. Maybe there's going to be this whole thing going on with the mother and him and her. And
when he died, too, it was just too great a shock for her.
I mean, you're taken down a path. But what's great about it is that all your expectations are taken and turned upside down.
You know, there are certain rules And he pulled a pin and rolled a grenade into the middle of that conference room and destroyed all those rules.
The camera's very much with Marion, right? Even to the point where you have that very famous shot of the shower head. All of a sudden you go from Marion, and the camera is then in this very strange place where you see both her showering and the shadowy figure behind that kind of visqueen curtain. He did it with an eye towards having to shift point of view 35 minutes into the film.
The very first screening of that film, none of us had a clue what was going to happen. And when that murder, that shower scene came, I've never seen an audience react like that. You could hear a sustained shriek from the audience downstairs. It wasn't like, ah, ah, ah. It was like, ah, like they wanted to close it out. But they couldn't stop watching it. You wanted to close your eyes, but you couldn't. Hitch was right. You didn't have to build suspense anymore. They were blithering idiots. The audience was, what happened? They couldn't believe what happened. They kept thinking it couldn't have happened. She's going to be alive. It was every impulse that you have from going to movies. It was the first time that going to the movies was dangerous.
7 days.
Ça durait 7 jours.
70 setups. I used a nude girl a lot, and I shot some of it in slow motion.
Ah ouais?
Because of covering the breast. You couldn't do it quick. You couldn't measure it correctly.
On ne pouvait pas le mesurer correctement.
That's when you feel like this guy really has his finger on the pulse, you know, of not only just audience response, but the world in general, that the world was ready for a film like that. They didn't know it was, but it was. This was a small story, but it represented probably something much larger on the horizon.
At that time, as it is now, we expect certain things. And it took storytelling at that time and says, no, I'm not going to give you that. I'm going to give you something else because you think everything is so cool. You're at the end of the 50s, the 60s are going to look glorious to us. I think it was really important for where we were then. You have Vietnam, you have World Revolution, you have everything that happened in the 60s, and the society has never been the same. That picture really touched upon that, I think, Psycho. Of course, you want everything so neat and wrapped up. Well, life isn't like that. Even the stories I'm going to tell you are not like that now.
My main satisfaction
Ma principale
is
satisfaction a été
that film did something to an audience. I really mean that. In many ways, I feel my satisfaction with our art
avec notre art
achieved something
a accompli quelque
of
chose
mass emotion.
d'une émotion de masse.
It wasn't a message. It wasn't some great performance. It wasn't a highly appreciated novel that served an
Ce n'était
audience.
pas un roman très apprécié qui a secoué l'audience.
It was pure film. People will say what a terrible thing to make.
C'est une chose terrible à
The
faire.
subject was
Le sujet était horrible.
horrible. People were
Les gens
small.
étaient
There were
petits.
no characters.
Il n'y avait pas de
in it. I know
caractère.
all this.
Je sais tout ça.
But I know one thing.
Mais je sais une chose.
The use of film in
L'utilisation du film en construisant.
this story caused audiences
Mon
all
film
over the
a
world
causé des audiences partout au monde
to react and become emotional. My only pride in the
That's why.
picture
C'est
is
pourquoi ma fierté dans ce
the
film,
picture belongs to filmmakers It belongs to
Et que ce
us,
film
you and I.
nous appartient à nous et à vous et à moi.
Yes, how do you want to handle this?
Well, I'm the cameraman, you are the director, and you are directing a double portrait of a Mr. Hitchcock and of a Mr. Truffaut. But whatever you want, any idea that comes...
But really, it's my directing Mr. Truffaut, isn't it?
Yes, but you direct also yourself.
Ah, I got what you want. Okay.
Il est moins inquiet que moi.
You look less worried than he feels.
Now, here we are. Look, here's the angle. Now, I'm going to be like this, you see. Now, Mr. Truffaut should half turn around and look back to me. Regardez-moi. Like this, you see then?
Alors là, il faut pas le cigare.
We better not have cigars, all right. Otherwise, it might make us look like movie directors. And God forbid we ever look like that.
The conversation that began in 1962 extended far beyond the book and bloomed into a real friendship. Hitchcock and Truffaut spoke and wrote to each other constantly. They read each other's scripts, made story and casting suggestions, and screened each other's films. After the first edition of the book was published in 1966, Truffaut made a movie a year, sometimes two. Hitchcock made only 3 more films. Right to the end, he was haunted by the question he had raised with Truffaut. Should I have experimented more with character and narrative? Did I become a prisoner of my own form? The same old questions still swirled around him. Was he an artist or an entertainer? Could anyone really claim to be an artist working within the factory conditions of Hollywood?
In America, you call this man Hitch. In France, we call him Monsieur Hitchcock.
"2 weeks after the American Film Institute tribute," wrote Truffaut, resigned to the fact that he would never shoot another film, Hitchcock closed his office, dismissed his staff, and went home. Francois Truffaut's energy and his love of cinema seemed inexhaustible. The idea that he would be dead at the age of 52, only 4 years after Hitchcock, was unthinkable. It still is. The last completed project of Truffaut's life, published a few months before he died, was an updated edition of his book, in which he gave us Alfred Hitchcock. Not the television star, not the master of suspense, but Alfred Hitchcock, the artist, who wrote with the camera.
I suppose the films with atmosphere, suspense, and incident are really my creations as a writer.
Mes créations en tant qu'écrivain.
Dans 9 films sur 10, vous avez montré des personnages entre qui se crée un fossé, parce qu'ils avaient un secret, ils s'obstinaient à ne pas se révéler l'un à l'autre. L'ambiance était de plus en plus oppressante, jusqu'à ce qu'ils se décident à s'expliquer. ce qui leur permettait de se libérer. Vous reconnaissez vos films, là?
Sure, yes.
C'est-à-dire que finalement, vous êtes surtout intéressé, vous abritant derrière une histoire de caractère policier, à filmer des dilemmes moraux.
Sure, let's try.
Ben, ça sera ma conclusion.